guys, it's Taylor, and today I have a very long video for you. I'm assuming it's going to be long because the whole entire story was a long story in itself, so I'm just going to get right into it. Basically, today I'm going to be doing Levi's birth and delivery story with my first son. He is 2 in May, so sorry if the memories are like semi-faded. It's been a long time, and it was a very dramatic experience. I look like shit. That's okay. My hair's a mess. It's cleaning day for me today, so I don't really care. I want to get this done before Beckett comes because I want to be able to remember Beckett's story and Levi's story, and I don't want to have any more foggy memories, as foggy as they already are, just because it's already been tough remembering Levi's. So yeah, so I'm just gonna ramble and go on, and it's not a pretty story. It was not a fun experience. So basically, I'm gonna start back from the beginning of my pregnancy with Levi. Basically, he was not planned. I was 17 years old when I found out I was pregnant, and I found out at about 9 weeks. I didn't have any prenatal care until about 22 weeks. I ended up moving from Oregon to Seattle to live with my mom for safety reasons and emotional reasons and better lifestyle for the baby, Rodney, and I. So Rodney and I moved from Oregon to my mom's house, and we lived with her for a little bit, a couple of months. I found a doctor, I got Washington State health insurance, and the whole process. I got a job, Rodney got a job. It took us a while to settle in. However, I got prenatal care at like 22 weeks, and that, like, starting from there put me at high risk because I was a teen pregnancy and I didn't have any prenatal care up until the 22-week part. So then I flip-flopped between OBs because I felt violated at some. Some of them just thought I was naive and young, and yes, I was naive, and yes, I was young. However, you should always treat people with respect, whether they're 16 years old or 35 having a baby. I'm still carrying a child. I still need to be informed about everything that a 35-year-old woman would be informed about. I still have choices. Just because I'm young and made stupid decisions doesn't mean that I should be judged for that, especially that far into the pregnancy. A lot of doctors were very judgmental. We had a lot of doctors try and do things that we knew weren't okay. I was pressured into a lot of things. I was pressured into a lot of tests. So I ended up getting this one OB, and she was a girl, and her name was Mary, and she was super nice, super cool, and I had her up until I was, I think, like 35 weeks, and mind you, this is after like 6 other OBs, okay? So Ronnie and I really liked this girl. She was close to my mom's house, and she was delivering in Renton. Well, at 37 weeks, Rodney and I moved into our own apartment in Sumner, and so the whole Renton to Sumner thing, it was about a 45-minute drive, and if I went into labor, we couldn't be driving 45 minutes, especially since that's 45 minutes is with no traffic. So if there were traffic, it would have been like 2 or 3 hours before I got to the hospital, and there could have been an emergency, and it just wasn't a good situation. So 35, 36, 37 weeks I was with this woman, and she was very, very nice. I did opt out of certain tests, and she did them anyways. I remember I was getting my B-strep test, and if you don't know what that is, I opted out of it because I was uncomfortable with the way nobody explained what it was to me, and she went to check me and actually did the test anyways, and it just made me really uncomfortable. There were a bunch of red flags coming up, and I just was really, I don't know. And also another thing about her is every time she would check me, it was really painful, and it shouldn't be painful. It should be uncomfortable, but not painful. And if you are pregnant or have been pregnant, you know what I mean. Moving on, I was measuring like 3 weeks further ahead than my due date was. So at 35 weeks, I was measuring 38 weeks, the baby anyways, because Levi was a big baby. That's when my doctor started pushing, we don't do C-sections here. It's not necessary. The woman body can do whatever she needs to do. It doesn't need a surgery, etc., etc. She had lots of opinions about cesareans, and I, in the back of my mind, thought, he's a big baby. I'm not a big person. I've never had a baby before, and I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm going to try, and I'm going to try my hardest, but I don't think that physically I'm going to be able to do that. And I knew that at like 37 weeks. And so I was measuring just huge, and she just always pressured. She was like, absolutely no C-sections. It's not even an option. I don't even want to talk about it, blah, 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 blah. Like, would go on and on. So I never had like even the mindset of knowing what a C-section was, knowing what I was getting myself into, etc. I didn't want a C-section. That was the last resort. I don't do surgeries. I don't do doctors. I don't do vaccinations. I did not want a C-section. However, I knew since he was so big and I had never delivered a child before, there was a possibility that I might have to have a C-section. So I wanted to get in my mind and my heart prepared for that so that the time would come and I wouldn't be like freaking out, you know? Flash forward to 37 weeks, I went to the emergency room thinking I was in labor. As many times as I did, I probably went in like 4 or 5 times thinking I was in labor, honestly. And I went in and told my doctor that was there, not Dr. Mary. I told my other doctor that I was uncomfortable with my OB, and she was just really like down on me and putting me down, and I just always felt like I was just too naive and young and I didn't know what I was talking about, and it was just a bad experience. And they ended up hooking me up with another doctor named Dr. Jeffrey, who was a really good doctor. It was definitely a blessing in disguise moving from this doctor to this doctor. And so I went to Dr. Jeffrey. He was only 6 miles away. The hospital was only 6 miles away. It just seemed all peachy keen and everything. I went to him and he told me that baby was very big. And I knew that. Levi was like 8'14", 8'13" at like 37, 38 weeks. And measuring on the ultrasound anyways. I saw him twice before I went into labor. And the way I went into labor was, so I tried all sorts of things. I was walking, I was having sex, I was eating spicy foods, eating pineapple, eating blah, 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 blah. Like, I was doing literally everything that I possibly could to deliver this baby and get things going, because I didn't want to have a huge baby because I knew that increased my risk of having a C-section. So I was reading online and I read about castor oil, and a lot of moms are against castor oil. A lot of people don't know that I even took castor oil, and I did. Rodney and I went to the store and bought castor oil, and if you don't know what that is, it's like a laxative. It starts your bowels up and then it causes your uterus to cramp, and sometimes it puts you into labor because your uterus is contracting. So I drank a 4-ounce bottle of castor oil. I mixed it up in a peanut butter and banana smoothie, milkshake, I guess. And I swear to this day, I have not had another peanut butter and banana milkshake because that's fucking nasty. It was horrible. Literally it was like drinking Vaseline because we had like to pour oil in it. Moving on, I drank the smoothie at about 8 o'clock at night. Rodney and I went to bed at like 10, and I started getting contractions, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. And so I was up from, I guess, the morning when I woke up, so 10 p.m. until 5 a.m. the next morning with contractions all night long. I stayed up all by myself. Rodney would not wake up. My mom wouldn't wake up. And I was having contractions all night. It was horrible. Oh my god, I don't even remember what it felt like because it was so painful. Mainly what I remember about that is pacing the living room back and forth like, oh my god, I'm about to have a baby. Like, I'm having contractions, blah, blah, blah. Like, they were getting closer together. They were super painful. I was having like times when I'd have to like hold on to something and like breathe through them. So I knew this was the real thing. 4 a.m. comes and I go and wake up Rodney and I said, hey babe, I think that it's time. I think that this is the real thing. Do you want to go to the hospital? And he said, yeah, let's get our stuff and let's go. So we packed our stuff, grabbed my hospital bag, grabbed the car seat, grabbed the baby bag, blah, blah, and got in the car and drove to Good Sam Hospital in Puyallup, which was 6 miles away. They called my doctor right away, and I went in to labor and delivery and was laid down on a table, flat on my back. And the baby, they put like a heart tone monitor on my belly. A woman came in to check me, and they were monitoring like his heart rate and everything. So she came in to check me, and she pulled out her glove, and I remember looking at her glove like, okay, what? And apparently my water had broken and I didn't know, but it was like slowly breaking. It hadn't like burst or anything. I never felt it like that. So she reached her glove out and it was like just drenched, as gross as this is, it was drenched in my fluid, like the amniotic fluid. She then took off her glove and then like sent a little sample. She's like, I'm going to send this in, but I'm pretty sure your water broke anyways, because they have to test to make sure it is your water actually breaking. And so she walked around the corner over to the other side of me and had Rodney move to look at the baby's heartbeat, and the baby wasn't like, he would have like thud 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 stop, thud 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 stop, thud 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 stop, and it was just really irregular and really freaky. And she was like, honey, with the heartbeat like that, you're not going home without a baby, like we have to induce you, we have to start labor up. And I was like, okay. So they wheeled me into another room. I called my mom on the phone. They wheeled me into the labor and delivery room, like my actual room. And I called my mom and I was like, hey, I'm in labor. It's going to be a while, but you don't have to come right now if you don't want to, but you're more than welcome to. Blah, blah, blah. She was at home with my dog, so she wanted to stay for a little bit anyways, so that my dog wasn't going to be alone for 24 hours in the house. Rodney and I went into the room. We were admitted. I got a gown. I was up and down in the bed and just fine. And then, like, this is where it starts to get foggy, is like the bad stuff. They came in to check me, and like I said before, every time I've ever been checked, it's been extremely painful. They've been really forceful with me and not gentle, and I've explained it to other nurses and doctors, and it just seems like they didn't care because I was this 18-year-old girl scared out of my mind, and they thought, oh, she's just being a pussy, like she's just being a little brat, like she just needs her mommy, blah, 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 because she's so young. Well, it wasn't the case. It wasn't because I was a pussy. It was literally because they were so forceful and just inconsiderate, I guess. Like, I'm uncomfortable. I'm in labor. I was 40 weeks and 5 days pregnant going into labor. It was uncomfortable, and that's the truth behind it. It wasn't because I didn't want anything up there. It was just, I was so uncomfortable having someone shove their hand up you while you're that pregnant, and that uncomfortable is not comfortable. Anyways, moving on. I progressed pretty well. I was dilating more and more, etc., etc. Then we're going to skip to the part where I'm like 8 centimeters, 9 centimeters, like getting ready up there in that big zone, you know? Rodney's mom was there. My friend's mom, June, was there. She had all of her kids. My mom was there. My dad was there. My stepmom was there. My stepdad was, my mom's friend was there. And there was just a lot of people, and it was becoming kind of overwhelming. I was super stressed out and I felt like I couldn't make my own decisions because there were so many other people in the room making them for me, and I was young, and like I said, I just felt so naive, and I just felt like any of my opinions or my wishes or my birth plan pieces just did not matter because everyone else was in the room smashing ideas into my head, and like one doctor would say something and everyone would be like, oh yeah, you should do that, you should do that, you should do that. And like, I have nothing against any of the people who were there because those were awesome people. They still are awesome people. They're still very close and dear to my heart. However, I know this time now, a couple of people in the room, just simply because I don't want to be influenced like I was. So we had to ask some people to leave, and that was already drama enough. My doctor came in and he was like, hey, get a good reading on the baby's heartbeat. We're going to have to do this internal monitor. Okay, so they had to screw, I don't know if you guys have ever had this, but they had this like long metal stick and it had a screw. Oh my God, and it gives me heebie-jeebies thinking about it. They had to screw it into Levi's head. So they shoved it up my vagina because he was like, his head was, you know, right there because he's low, and screwed it into his head. Oh my God, it literally gives me heebie-jeebies. I hate thinking about it. And then they wanted to do an internal contraction monitor too. Now, mind you, I didn't want to do either of these things. I was not comfortable with it. I didn't want anything else up there because I was already so fucking uncomfortable. So they wanted to do an internal monitor, and everyone was like, you need to do it, you need to do it. And like, we had 3 other people who were like, no, do what you want to do. And then like 2 other people were like, no, you need to do it, you need to listen to your doctor, blah, 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 blah. And I'm crying, I'm emotional. Rodney doesn't even know what to do with himself because, hello, it was overwhelming. We were young, we don't know what's going on. And so all the nurses and all the doctors that are in the room are like freaking out on me, like, you need to do this for your baby, blah, blah, blah. This isn't about you, it's for the safety of your baby. So I did it. I got the internal contractions monitor, which is this big long thing that is plastic and it curves up, so like they shove it and it like curves around the back of the baby. Then they got the screw in his head, so I'm like stuck on the table. I have my epidural. I got my epidural at 6 centimeters, spread eagle on the table with everyone around me, and I'm like, can I just have everyone leave? Like, I started getting really overwhelmed and really emotional. So then we had my doctor come in, and this was about, I would say, like 6 in the morning the next morning. So it had already been over 24 hours, etc. And my doctor said, hey, looks like we are 10 centimeters, it's time to push. 6 a.m. Okay, I hadn't slept, I haven't eaten, I haven't done anything. 10 centimeters, we're ready. We put my feet up on the stirrups because I can't feel anything. Rodney's mom is to my left, my mom's to my left, Rodney is to my right or my left, I don't remember. And I push with everything I have, and I get emotional about it because I'm literally, like, I've had people tell me, you should have tried harder, and blah, 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 and you wouldn't have had to have a C-section, and blah, 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 and, like, I pushed so hard with everything I had, everything that I had in my body. I was tired, I was hungry, I was overwhelmed, I was emotionally drained, and I pushed with everything I had, and I pushed for 7 hours. I pushed from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. At about 12, they had me, like, my doctor came in and was like, hey, you're not progressing very well. We're gonna have to do a C-section, and that's probably our last option. Now, number one, I'm pissed off about this because he didn't offer forceps. He didn't offer suction. He didn't offer to reach in and try and help grab the baby. It was literally me pushing at the table with like 4 nurses on this side, 2 nurses on this side, my family over here, the doctors down here. There were like 3 doctors. There was a surgeon in the room, like all these people. And they're like, hey, he's not responding. His heart rate keeps dropping down. It's just not looking good. So I'm freaking out. They're putting oxygen on my face because I'm so fucking tired from pushing for 7 hours. They have me sign the fucking C-section paper. I'm like, I just want to get this baby out. I want to be safe. I want to be happy. I want him in my arms. This isn't good. I'm not okay. They have Rodney get ready, get in scrubs, have me sign the C-section, whatever. I acknowledge blah, 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 because I had no idea that there are other options for me. I didn't know that you could use forceps or ask for forceps or ask for suction. My doctor never offered them, and shame on him for not, because he should have. And then I drank the charcoal drink that they have you drink, which is like this big. It's like a shot of charcoal, and you drink it to clear out your stomach and whatnot. The doctor comes back. They all go talk in like this corner thing over in the other part of the room. I'm still like, ooh, like pushing. My body's pushing. And they come back and they're like, oh no, okay, so you're progressing a little bit more, baby's doing a little bit better, let's push a little bit more. Oh my god, okay. So we push a little bit more for like 20 more minutes. We're pushing and pushing and pushing. I'm doing everything I can. I'm using all the fucking strength I have. I'm not even kidding you. And then we're like, oh, hey, we're going to prep you for a C-section again. We're going to need to do this. Like, you aren't progressing. Baby's not responding, blah, 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 blah. Then 5 minutes later, they all go over and have a talk. They come back. Hey, we're going to try again. Let's push more. Let's keep pushing. You got this baby out. And they like honestly had me believing like, oh, you know, I'm so excited. They're going to, you know, the baby's going to come out. I'm going to have my son. I'm so excited to do this. You know, like he was going to be here. He was going to be safe in my arms. Hey, they leave again. Hey, honey, you're not progressing. You're not pushing hard enough. Blah, 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 blah. It's not working. His heart rate's stopping. It's really stressing the baby out. Let's prep you for a C-section again. They prep me for another fucking C-section. That one, I was just like, if this is it, then this is it. Don't do this to me again because I'm not pushing anymore. And like my body was just pushing itself. It was so done. I was just, like pushing, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. If we're having a C-section, then wheel me into the room and give me a C-section. I am not doing this anymore. I get wheeled into the room. I don't remember much. I was prepped. I heard a razor, so obviously they shaved me. And I got my spinal. The anesthesiologist was standing behind me, like, so I'm laying down on the table. They strap my arms down. It's freaky as fuck. And the anesthesiologist is behind me. He's talking me through. He's like, hey, it's okay. Like, do you feel this? Do you feel this? We're gonna poke you here. Do you feel this? Like, poking me everywhere. I was like, no, I couldn't feel anything from like here down. So they put this big tarp up, and he's like, you're gonna start feeling some pressure. And I was like, where is Rodney? Because Rodney wasn't in the room yet. So I asked, is Rodney coming? Is he coming anytime soon? And they were like, yeah, he'll be here in a minute. So like 10 minutes pass by, and Rodney comes in and stands to the left of me. And I just remember looking at him and like feeling like everything was gonna be okay, and I was really scared and really drugged up, but like I saw him and I was like, hey, okay, somebody I know, like everything's gonna be okay, we're gonna have our son, it's gonna be good. And I looked up at him and I was like, hi, and he's like, hi. I was like, I'm really scared, and I remember it being like really shaky and I felt really sick, and the anesthesiologist just kept telling me, you know, you're doing really good, it's okay, you're gonna feel some pressure. I felt a lot of pressure in my lower like pelvic region. It wasn't painful, but it was really, really, really uncomfortable, just because I knew that they were cutting me open. And once again, I said I've never been in surgery, I've never, you know, experienced anything like that. I remember saying, oh, there's an arm, and this was like 10-20 minutes into like the actual surgery, and they said, oh, there's an arm, and I was so excited. And then they took him out. I didn't hear him crying, and that freaked me out. And then like when they took him out, it was just like this huge pressure, like release from my body, release, I guess, of like emotions and just, you know, the whole, this 9-pound baby getting taken out of your body. And they cleaned him up. I'm not really sure what they did. Once again, I was really dozed out because I was so out of it from the medicine and, you know, the stress and everything I had just gone through in the last 36 hours. They cleaned him off, and then they wrapped him up in a blanket, and he was crying, and then they handed him to Rodney to come show me, and Rodney showed me Levi, and I literally lost it. You know, I didn't lose it like I'm crazy, I lost it like, oh my god, like everything's gonna be okay, we're gonna be fine. So Rodney brought him over. I wasn't allowed to hold him because my arms were strapped down. I was doing like sacrificial Jesus over here. And Rodney brought him and let me look at him, and I was like, babe, that's our baby, like he's so beautiful. And I remember just saying, he's so beautiful, and I was like, he's ours, that's ours, we made that, and like thank you so much, and like thanking Rodney, as silly as that was. And then they said that he had to go to NICU, and so I think if I wasn't as drugged up as I was, I would have been freaking out a lot more than I did. But Rodney got to take him with the nurses and the doctors to the NICU, and I was alone in the OR with the anesthesiologist and the other doctors. I just remember like feeling super, super alone, and that was like one of the worst feelings I've ever had, because I wanted to hold him and I wanted to be with him, and nobody told me what was wrong with him or anything. So they took him, and I literally only got like 30 seconds with him. They finished stitching me up, and then I think I fell asleep, honestly, because I don't remember being moved from the OR to the recovery room. So I went to the recovery room, I woke up in there, and I was supposed to be there for 3 hours. So this is right after I had just had my baby. I wanted to be with him. Nobody would tell me what was going on. My mom didn't even know where I was, so she was freaking out. Rodney didn't have any way to contact her because he didn't have his phone in the OR, and Rodney was with Levi. I was in recovery for 3.5 hours by myself with 2 nurses beside me, and I just remember like zoning in and zoning out, and then waking up and being like, did that just happen? Like zoning in and out and in and out. After I was done with the 3.5 hour recovery time, and they pushed on my stomach and did all the fun things that, you know, you do, they wheeled me into the NICU, put Levi on my chest to hold him for the first time, and I looked at the nurse beside me and I said, this is incredible. I would do that 1,000 times over for him. If I got to have him, I would do anything. Like, I would do anything for this kid, and like, it was overwhelming, the amount of love, also happiness, and just like unconditional love I had for this little tiny thing that I had just met, and I didn't want to let him go. And I remember I got like 10 minutes with him, and then they took me into my labor and delivery room. I was left there. My mom was there, and my dad was there, and Rodney's mom was there, and Rodney was there, and I was in there zoning in and out and just emotional, and I didn't know why I couldn't see Levi. And anyways, the long story short version, we had a bunch of nurses who were horribly rude, some pretty messed up things to me while I was recovering. We had 3 nurses hold me down and shove on my stomach. One nurse who made fun of me because I had urine incompetency because I had just been fucking cut open. She was making fun of me, literally making fun of me because of it, and had like a nurse bring in a catheter, like to make fun of me for it. You shouldn't be still unable to hold your bladder and stuff. Anyways, long story short, recovery was extremely painful. It was the worst thing I've ever been through in my entire life. And the fact that my son was in the NICU wasn't even close to me. We had to walk across the hallway. Like, I was overwhelmed. I was in a shit ton of pain. I had never been in surgery. I had never recovered from surgery. I'd never been on oxys or Vicodin or any sort of hard drug. I've never been on any anesthesia, like nothing. Never have I ever been on anything like that. And it was just a really, really, really bad experience. My mom ended up talking to like the board of nurses because of the malpractice that was going on with the nurses that would come in. I don't know. It was just a really bad experience, and I could go into so many details, but I think I'll do that in another video because this one's getting really long already. I had to walk across the hallway, a couple hallways actually, to go see Levi, and they kept telling us like, he's in here because he has a blood infection, because you passed it on to him, because he was in a ruptured sac for so long. He was in the ruptured sac for 36 hours and they're only supposed to be in for 18. So he had a blood infection. Some nurses told us he had a seizure when he was born, which apparently some nurses told us that wasn't true. Some nurses told us that was true, and that really, really got on my nerves because nobody knew what the fuck was going on. Levi had to spend 7 days in the NICU. Annie and I got to stay there for 3 of the days. That is my labor and delivery story with my first son, and I am terrified for the second one. However, I am gonna try and attempt to have a VBAC, and hopefully this will be good and pleasant, and it'll help everything, and I won't be scared, and I won't be scarred from this. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm sorry it was so long, but I needed to do it and get it off my chest so that it would be out in the world and I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. And yeah, I will see you guys Tuesday. Bye!